I've always believed that inheriting property from dead relatives is like winning the lottery, except instead of money, you get their problems. And boy, did grandmother Evelyn have problems. Standing in the foyer of her Victorian monstrosity, I couldn't help but appreciate the irony. That's when Mrs. Rodriguez knocked on my door, suddenly owning the one estate I'd actually want to liquidate immediately. The house reeked of mothballs and regret, with wallpaper that looked like it had witnessed at least 3 different centuries of bad decorating decisions. That's when I noticed it. The door. Not just any door, mind you. This one materialized between the grandfather clock and the portrait of some dead ancestor with judgmental eyes. One minute I'm cataloging Evelyn's collection of ceramic cats. The next minute there's a mahogany door with brass hinges that definitely wasn't there before. Okay, stress hallucinations, I muttered, rubbing my temples. Perfectly normal after inheriting a house that looks like the Addams family's summer cottage. But the door remained stubbornly real, and that's when Mrs. Patterson from next door started screaming about finding her husband face down in their rose garden. But the door remained stubbornly real, and that's when Mrs. Patterson from next door started screaming about finding her husband face down in their rose garden. Felix Chen arrived 3 days later, armed with electromagnetic field detectors and enough skepticism to power a small city. I'd hired him because his website promised scientific paranormal investigation. So you're telling me, Felix said, adjusting his thick-rimmed glasses while staring at the door, that this appears whenever someone dies nearby? That's the working theory. I handed him Evelyn's journal, which I'd found hidden behind a false panel. According to family records dating back to 1847, this door has been popping up like a supernatural jack-in-a-box every time the Grim Reaper makes a house call. Felix flipped through pages covered in spidery handwriting. Your great-great-great-grandmother writes here that the door allows passage for those recently deceased, apparently. But here's the kicker. I pointed to a circled entry. Every time someone goes through, another person in town dies within 24 hours. It's like cosmic Jenga, but with human lives. That's when Mrs. Rodriguez knocked on my door. Elena Rodriguez, 73, terminal pancreatic cancer, 3 months to live if she was lucky. She stood on my porch with the determined expression of someone who already made peace with desperate measures. I know about the door, she said simply. My grandmother told me stories. I need to use it. Felix nearly dropped his EMF detector. Ma'am, you can't seriously believe. Young man Elena interrupted with the authority of someone who'd raised 6 children. When you're dying, you don't have the luxury of skepticism. That door represents hope. Even if it's false hope, it's still hope. Over the next week, word spread through our small town like wildfire in a paper mill. Suddenly, my grandmother's house became the supernatural equivalent of Lourdes, with desperate people camping on my lawn. There was James, the construction worker with ALS, whose hands shook as he begged me to let him try the door. Maria, whose 8-year-old daughter battled leukemia, clutched medical bills like prayer cards. Even Pastor Williams showed up, though he claimed he was there to counsel against demonic influences. While secretly asking if the door might work for his wife's Alzheimer's, Felix spent days documenting everything, measuring electromagnetic signatures and taking thermal readings. The energy patterns are unlike anything I've seen, he admitted, his scientific objectivity cracking. But Jenna, we're talking about playing Russian roulette with people's lives. Are we, I found myself asking, or are we giving people a choice they wouldn't otherwise have? The moral weight was crushing. Who was I to decide who deserved a chance at cheating death? But who was I to condemn innocent people to die in exchange? Elena's condition worsened daily. She'd moved into the guest room, partly because she was too weak to go home, partly because she was terrified the door would disappear before she could use it. You know what's funny? She told me one evening as we watched the door shimmer in the lamplight. I spent my whole life following rules, being good, playing it safe. Now I'm planning to walk through a door that might damn someone else's soul. But I'm not ready to die, Jenna. I'm just not ready. Meanwhile, Felix made a discovery that changed everything. Look at this, he said, spreading out genealogical charts across the kitchen table. Every family that's ever lived in this house, they've all had one thing in common. They became the door's guardians. And they all had to make the choice. What choice? Who the door claims in exchange? The guardian can influence the selection. Your grandmother's journal mentions it in code, but it's there. She chose who lived and who died for over 40 years. The realization hit me like a sledgehammer. I wasn't just inheriting a house. I was inheriting the role of cosmic executioner. Elena collapsed on Thursday morning. As Felix called 911, I watched the door pulse with an otherworldly light. Time was running out, and Elena's eyes held a desperate plea that cut through every ethical argument I'd constructed. Please, she whispered, let me try. The paramedics arrived, but Elena refused treatment. She'd made her decision. Standing before the door, I felt the weight of absolute power and absolute responsibility. Felix stood beside me, no longer the skeptical investigator, but a friend facing an impossible choice. If you do this, he said quietly, if you let her through, someone else dies. Maybe someone with kids, maybe someone who hasn't had their chance at life yet. And if I don't, Elena dies anyway, just slower and in agony. The door's brass handle began to glow. Elena reached for it with trembling fingers. Wait, I said, because I'd realized something. The door didn't just open for the dead. It opened for those willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. And maybe, just maybe, the choice of who it claimed wasn't random. Maybe it claimed the person most willing to give up their life for another. I stepped forward and placed my hand on the door handle beside Elena's. If this door demands a life in exchange, I said, then let it be someone who chooses to give it freely. The door opened, revealing not darkness, but light. Warm, welcoming light. Elena looked at me with tears in her eyes. You don't understand what you're doing. Yes, I do. I'm choosing to become my grandmother, the guardian who makes the hard choices so others don't have to. But as Elena stepped through the door, something unexpected happened. The light enveloped both of us, and I felt a presence, ancient and wise. The door didn't want death. It wanted balance. It wanted someone willing to carry the burden of choice, to stand at the threshold between life and death and make the decisions that kept the cosmic scales balanced. Elena emerged on the other side, healthy and whole, not returned from death, but saved from it. And I remained forever changed, forever bound to the door that opens only for the dead, or in my case, for those willing to live with the weight of other people's mortality. Felix still visits, helping me document each case, each choice. Because yes, people still die when the door is used. But now they're people who've lived full lives, who pass peacefully in their sleep, who slip away surrounded by loved ones, instead of dying alone and afraid. It's not playing God, I've learned. It's playing human, in a universe that sometimes needs someone to make the impossible choices. And honestly, for a job I never applied for, the benefits aren't terrible. Just don't ask me to list it on my resume.